Hello, and welcome to the Jared Hurst Podcast. This podcast is about understanding ourselves, others, and the tools you can use to transform your life. This week, I'm in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I'm visiting family for the holidays and having a great Thanksgiving. Well, I want to share with you something that I believe can help you transform your life. Something that can make a massive difference in the way that you enjoy each and every day. In case you're not familiar, I had something happen to me recently, and that thing has been very heavy and scary, emotional. It has affected me on a lot of different levels. And I think if you think about it really closely and you think about how your life would be in a similar situation, you can relate. About 2 weeks ago, I was on my way to meet with somebody, and all of a sudden, I started getting a ringing in my left ear. And that ringing intensified, and my ability to hear sound started to dissipate. I couldn't hear nearly as much as time went by, and at first I figured it was something temporary. It was something that I was going to be experiencing for maybe an hour or something like that, and then it would go away. But as the hours passed and continued to rack up, I started to get really nervous. I ended up picking somebody up from the airport, and they told me how they had had something similar happen to them, and they had been deaf in one ear for, I think, a decade or so. Well, as you can imagine, that got my attention pretty quick. So the next morning, as soon as I could, I went in to see an ear, nose, and throat doctor and to have myself professionally evaluated. Well, after they checked all the major things, they put me on some medicine and basically told me that I may get some of my hearing back, I may get all of my hearing back, or I may never get it back. And since then, for the last 2 weeks, I've had very limited hearing in my left ear and a constant ringing, which you can imagine is very distracting. It's hard to focus your thoughts when you have a ringing in your ear. It's hard to be able to have conversations and just do regular everyday things because one, you don't have any sound coming in this side, and two, you have this constant high-pitched squeal that is distracting from everything you're trying to do in life. Well, as somebody who wanted to be able to, and still wants to be able to, change this world, I know, really grand statement, but I want to be able to make a difference in the world. I want to be able to feel like I can help other people to change the way that they relate to themselves, to have a better relationship with themselves, to have more love, to have more joy, to have more fulfillment. And not only was I scared about the idea of having to deal with a constant high-pitched ringing in my ear for the rest of my life, and the way that that might just affect my life in general, one of the biggest fears and one of the biggest emotions around this was this worry that it was going to affect my ability to help people, my ability to formulate thoughts, my ability to speak, and to be able to have the impact that I want. Because for me, my big purpose, I finally found after all these years, is to help others. You know, I'm somebody that when I was in high school, I remember that we had a moment where they put us and they had us do these assessment tests. And we answered all these questions. And then after answering all these questions, they told us what we should do for a living. And I remember my assessment told me that I should be a social worker or a therapist or a school counselor. And at the time, I looked at those occupations, I looked at what they paid, and that was my main focus in that point of my life. And I didn't like it. I didn't feel like it provided me what I needed in order to support a family. So I turned away from those things. I ended up changing my degree 3 times and ended up getting a degree in business and finance, mostly just so that I could support a young family that I had at the time. Well, fast forward all those years later, throughout that entire time, I knew that I wanted to have a life where I loved what I did for a living, where I felt like I was excited to work. I was excited to do what I was doing each and every day. And I probably spent 20 plus years trying to figure out what is my big why, my big purpose, the thing that was going to drive and move me forward. And I finally figured out that what it was is helping impact the lives of other people. That's something that lights me up inside, that gives me joy, that gives me purpose, and I'm excited about it. So here I am after 2 decades of work, trying to figure out what I would love. I finally figure it out. I finally have my relationship with myself, the way that I feel about myself, the way that I feel about my life, the way that I deal with emotions. I'm finally in this really solid space. And then this happens. And it was really just, I've been scared, I've been upset, and a number of other emotions. And over the course of that time, I happened to be listening to this book, this audiobook. And this audiobook is talking all about joy and love and things like that. And so that brings me to this week's topic, and that is embracing a life of joy and gratitude. Now, I have had a number of events in my life, a number of times where things have come into my life that I would not have picked for myself. Things that have been challenging, difficult, emotional, and just a number of experiences that I didn't want to experience. I'm sure if you look at your life, you can see where you have those things happening as well. Things that you don't want to happen. But as I look back over the course of my life, the hardest moments, the most difficult challenges have all led to my biggest growth, have all led to the most joy over the course of time. The times when I've had my heart broken, the times where I made decisions that pushed people away that I really loved, all of those have been catalysts for change that has impacted my life in magnificent ways. I think you probably have that as well. It's really hard in the moment to be grateful for a challenge, to look at that challenge and say, this is something that I'm glad has come into my life. Well, as I've been dealing with this deafness, and I've been dealing with the possible ramifications of that on my ability to live my purpose and change my life, I've been reading this book, and it's been talking about joy and gratitude and love. And so I started looking at my life differently. I started looking at my life and I started asking myself a question. One of the most powerful changes in my life is developing a growth mindset. And I have found that people, as individuals, we achieve more. We have a better chance of accomplishing our goals when we keep things simple. And so I adopted this simple question that I asked myself over the last 2.5 years. Whenever something difficult comes into my life, I ask myself, how can I grow from this experience? And as I've continued to do that over and over and over, it's become habitual. I do not have to think about asking myself that question every time something difficult comes. I find a way to grow through every experience. And I have a new mindset now. So that's a growth mindset. I have a new philosophy for life that I believe people should start looking to adapt into their lives. And that is a joy mindset. Every time something difficult comes into your life, every time something good comes into your life, ask yourself these 2 questions. How can I grow from this? And how can I find joy in this? Where can I find joy? Now, some people will talk about having toxic gratitude. I don't really love that phrase, but let's go with it for a moment. Toxic gratitude is, in essence, where you put your head in the sand, you don't allow yourself to feel the difficult emotions of life, and everything you have is focused on gratitude. Now, personally, I would rather have that problem than a life of pessimism and negativity. But let's go with this for a moment. Let's look at that scenario. What I'm suggesting to you and what I'm talking with you about today is not burying your head in the sand when a negative thing comes along. It is not keeping yourself from feeling difficult emotions. I am a strong proponent that one of the best ways in order to regulate and process emotion is to allow ourselves to feel it. First, I would challenge you to seek to understand your emotion. Where is this emotion coming from? Why am I feeling this way? With my hearing, I felt all this emotion inside of me, and I asked myself, what am I feeling in this moment? Fear, anger, hurt, abandonment, feeling like maybe God had left me? How can you give me this great purpose that I feel called to do and then take this away from me? There's the anger. So at first, I seek to understand the emotion and try to figure out, why am I feeling the way that I do? One of the things that I've really found in life that can help you in your life, that can make a difference in your everyday feelings and emotions, is understanding your emotions. Because a lot of the times when we understand those emotions, we recognize that they're based on incorrect perceptions. We understand that they're based on lies. A lot of the times for me with anger is based on lies. I feel hurt about something that's happened in my life. And then because I feel hurt about that thing, I get angry as a way to defend myself in order to protect myself in that emotion. And when I recognize why I'm angry, I realize that it's based on a belief I have in myself, a negative belief I have in myself that I am using that experience to reinforce. So for one, understand your emotion. But two, allow yourself to feel that emotion. Allow yourself to go through the process, because those emotions are there for a reason. So that first and foremost is what I want to start with. You need to allow yourself to feel the emotions that come to you. When you have a bad experience like this, I allowed myself to be upset. I allowed myself to cry and be fearful. I created videos that I put on Facebook that I told everybody how I felt. And part of the reason I did those videos was to help other people that might be going through something difficult in their life. But another big reason why I did that is to allow me to process through what I was feeling. And I felt better. So allow yourself to feel the emotion, and would be a better way of saying this. And after you've allowed yourself to feel the emotion, then ask yourself, where can I grow from this? And where can I find joy? And in those moments, I have found joy in little things, because I can still hear out of this here. And so every time somebody speaks to me, I focus on how grateful I am that I can hear that voice. This experience has caused me to appreciate my hearing in new ways, at higher levels. I have always appreciated my hearing. It has been one of my most grateful things that I focus on. So it's not like I've lived a life where I haven't enjoyed it. but it's allowed me to enjoy that and other things. Sometimes when we are in a state where we are feeling scared or hurt or fearful or whatever emotion, anger, it can be really hard to get ourselves into a state where we feel gratitude and joy. And I've had times over the last 2 weeks where I've wanted to be in this happier, joyful state of life. Because think about it. How much better is your life if the majority of the time you were in a state of joy and gratitude? Like, your quality of life is tied directly to your emotions, yes? Like, if you have all the wealth, all the freedom, all the purpose, and everything else in the world, but you're miserable, does it matter? Like, would you really want to have everything that you've ever dreamed of if you were miserable constantly? Or would you rather have less than that and be joyful? Yeah? Like, you would pick joy, right? It's not a debate, in my opinion. Like, if having everything means that I'm going to be miserable, I'd rather not have everything and be joyful. And you get to decide that. You get to decide, do I want to have joy in my life on a daily basis? And it's by the way that you look for things. And so when I've been in these moments where I've been struggling to have joy around everything that I'm dealing with, I start looking to other areas. I touch something and I have joy in that. I feel the wind against my skin and I find joy in that. I have a conversation with my daughter that is meaningful and I find joy in that connection. And so what I start doing is I start having gratitude for things. Our world that we live in is full of gratitude. It's everywhere you look. It's really easy. I can go over here, flip a switch, and I instantly have light. I have the ability to read a book. I think one of the ways in which it's really easy to have joy is just imagine that you lived 100 years ago, 200 years ago. I wouldn't have the internet and the ability to look up anything that I wanted at the touch of a button. I wouldn't be able to flip on a switch. I wouldn't be able to go into the bathroom and just sit down in comfort and go to the bathroom and not have to worry about getting bit by a spider in an outhouse. I wouldn't have to worry about going out in the snow and just to use the bathroom. I mean, think about that. As you drive down the road in your car, you look around you and it's like, there's a place I could go get tires for my car. Look at all these places I could go get gasoline. I don't have to make a day trip just to go into town in order to buy groceries. I've got a grocery store here, there. All of these things that I can choose to be grateful for and have joy in. And as I look for these things, find joy in these things throughout my day, then it's easier for me once I get into that joyful gratitude state to have gratitude and joy for the things that are more challenging. I sit there and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I hear a ringing in my ear. That means I hear something. There's something. My brain is trying to pick up on things. And I just had a moment right there. I put my hand over my ear and I spoke to you and I heard a tiny little echo in my ear. I've had 2 moments like that over the last 3 days. They've been very emotional moments for me. Because over the last 2 weeks, you know how like when you talk and you put a hand over your ear, you can hear things? Well, I've heard nothing. And what I just heard just a second ago when I put my hand over my ear is I heard this tiny little echo in my head. Now, I could look at that and it would be really easy for me to look at that moment and say, man, my ear doesn't work. I can't hear anything. All I'm hearing is this muffled. But I hear something now that I didn't hear 3 days ago. I hear something. And this moment, this experience has caused me to tap into my faith. in levels that I haven't had to. It's caused me to have more spiritual conversations with my God that I wouldn't have had. It has caused me to be grateful for things that I wouldn't have normally noticed. So all of these experiences that I'm having are caused by this trying moment, that are helping me unlock sides of me that I would need to tap into, my spirituality. Now, that doesn't mean you need to have this difficult, challenging thing in order for you to have great gratitude in your life, in order for you to be thankful for the things that are occurring. You can have this each and every moment of your day. There is a joy, there is a growth in every moment, in every experience of life. You want to go out with this person, you're going on a date, and they stand you up. Wow, I just found out that I have the opportunity to go find the right person for me because this is somebody that won't be committed to me. Wow, I get a moment with myself in order to experience and spend time on my own, experiencing the joy and love of being with me. And there's experiences like that in every moment. You know, I've had this philosophy that I've been talking with my friends about that I think is really important, and that is releasing expectations. I think a lot of the times as people, we set expectations of what things need to look like, what this interaction with this person should look like, what this moment should look like, what this goal I'm working towards should look like. And then when it doesn't happen, we feel disappointment. But when we release the expectation of what things need to look like, and we find joy in the action and in the moment, then we're always going to be able to have more excitement and enthusiasm and joy in our life because we are finding joy in what is happening and the effort instead of looking at the result. You're more present. You're more with the life that you want to have. And that's the same thing with this joy moment, this joy concept, having a joy mindset. It means my life is not about a set expectation. My life is about letting life happen, creating life through my actions, my thoughts, my emotions, and then finding the joy in whatever transpires. You don't have to be some eternal optimist. You don't have to be somebody that sticks your head in the sand and says everything is all right no matter what happens. It's okay to feel fear. It's okay to feel angry. It's okay to feel betrayed. I have friends that I love and care about that are going through these incredible, difficult times in their lives where it feels like they're just constantly getting knocked down time and time and time again. But I believe that if they look for it, there are things they can be grateful for and find joy in. And that doesn't mean that what they're going through is not difficult. It doesn't mean that they aren't having an absolutely challenging time in their life. But what it does mean is they can find a way to make that journey a little more enjoyable. I know you can do this. I know it can make a difference in your life. As you embrace a life looking for the things you can be grateful for, looking for the ways that you can have joy, and looking for the ways that you can grow. I know you can do it. I believe in you. And until next week, remember that you are not alone.